So after a disappointing playoff run for the Tampa Bay Lightning, they're looking to head into this season and have a turnaround season and finally win that Stanley Cup. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe as we continue the Summer Report series today as we take a look at the Tampa Bay Lightning. So the Tampa Bay Lightning were not able to break the President's Trophy curse by winning the Stanley Cup after winning as the most points in the NHL, the most wins in the NHL, one of the most points in NHL history in the salary cap era. Fortunately, they get swept in the first round by the Columbus Blue Jackets, who squeaked into the playoffs in the final days of the regular season. They're hoping to turn things around this season. They want to forget about last season. They don't want to hear me talk about how Tampa got swept. Did I mention to you Tampa Bay got swept? Okay, all right. I'm sorry, Tampa. I'll leave you alone. Tampa Bay Lightning have a little under $9 million left in cap space, 8.475 to be pretty much exact. They made a couple of moves this offseason. They were able to move out a guy like JT Miller. They picked up a draft pick, so that was a pretty good move. So they moved out cap space and picked up a draft pick. They brought in Patrick Maroon, who was a pretty good piece there with the St. Louis Blues and helping them win the Stanley Cup. So maybe there's a little, veteran leadership. Just won the Stanley Cup. He knows how to get it done. You pick up a guy like Patrick Maroon in your depth. And then heading into next season, they have a couple of pretty important free agents, as well as one that is available right now. So Braden Point is, at this point, a restricted free agent. I'm hoping that he does not sign before this video comes out, but we'll have to wait and see what happens because I would expect Braden Point to go pretty soon. Hopefully before the beginning of the season, but if not, we'll see what happens. He'll end up making some pretty good money, but next season you also have to worry about some of these guys as well. So you got to be careful with Braden Point's contract because you have Erik Chernak, who has been a pretty good defenseman for the Tampa Bay Lightning. I would say he's a top 4 defenseman at points. He's a pretty good player. He's a big body for the Tampa Bay Lightning, and on this defense, he doesn't even get a chance to play in the top 4 because of how good they are. McDonough. Now you add Shattenkirk. I mean, Chernak's not going to have it easy, and he's probably going to end up taking a really cheap deal, but I think he's a really good player for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And the big name being Mikhail Sergachev. So that was the big thing that we heard. You had the Boo Birds, unfortunately, when Andrei Vasilevsky signed his mega contract to stay with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Check out that video. We have one here of that as well. But everybody was, instead of being, happy that they signed Vasilevsky, he's here for the long term, they were upset because that's money that may be eating away at keeping Mikhail Sergachev. So I think Mikhail Sergachev is an unbelievable player. Montreal made a huge mistake getting rid of Sergachev, and Tampa Bay reaps the benefits of it. They moved out Jonathan Drouin, a disgruntled player that didn't want to play in Tampa anymore, and they picked up a guy like Sergachev, who is a really solid defenseman. He could be an issue next summer for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Braden Point doesn't seem like he'll be an issue this summer. There's been rumors that Montreal wanted to offer him a offer sheet. He had no interest. He wants to stay in Tampa Bay. He just wants to figure out the number that makes sense for him. I.e., he wants to see what Marner, Rantanen, and Laine get paid. But with that said, Braden Point, they still have to figure him out, as well as they have to start thinking about what they're going to do with Sergachev. Taking a look at the lineup for the Tampa Bay Lightning, this team is godly. They really have a solid group in Tampa Bay. Starting off with the forwards, you got that first line, Andre Palat, Steven Stamkos, and Nikita Kucherov. Nikita Kucherov almost put up 130 points last season in Tampa, so he's a pretty good player, to say the least. He pretty much was at like a what is that, like a 175 points per game. I mean, he was putting up almost 2 points a game in the NHL. That is like, I'm speechless. Like that is so good. Um, but he definitely had a good supporting cast to help him. Steven Stamkos down the middle. He's definitely had some issues in the NHL recently, but Stamkos is, I have to say, he is someone that growing up, a NHL fan, he was a player that got me into the NHL, enjoying hockey, was a guy like Steven Stamkos, and that's why Tampa is one of my favorite teams, is because of a guy like Steven Stamkos. Andre Palat, like I said earlier, he reaps the benefits of having a superstar line with Kucherov and Stamkos, and he is an unbelievable player in his own right, but he definitely gets sheltered a little bit because of how good the players around him are. But hey, why not? He reaps the benefits. He puts up good point totals. Yanni Gourde, Braden Point when he signs, Tyler Johnson on the wing. So Tyler Johnson can play center, and Braden Point's playing down the middle. They need to lock him up first, but even if Braden Point isn't there for the opening night of the season for Tampa Bay, Tyler Johnson can play center, and there's really no huge issue there for the Lightning. Yanni Gourde, I think that's a really good player that Tampa has. They signed him to a really good contract last season, so hopefully things work out with Yanni Gourde, but I think he's a good player. He kind of reminds me of Palat. He's a great pickup there for Tampa, and he's going to have to continue to develop. And like I said earlier with Palat, it's easier when you have a superstar team around you. Guys, teams' defense you don't play the top matchups on other teams because they're focusing their attention on other players. But like I said earlier, you reap the benefits of that. That's just how it works. Just like New England, same thing. You're on a good organization. Things work out that way. Things work out for you. You end up becoming a really good player. And you make some dough at the end of the day. Third line: Alex Killorn, Anthony Cirelli down the middle, and Matthew Joseph. Matthew Joseph, I am almost positive, can play center as well. So in the event that Anthony Cirelli is injured or, God forbid, something happens, they do have Matthew Joseph who can slot in there. Anthony Cirelli, a really solid third-line center. I think he's one of the better third-line centers in the league. Again, there's another guy that they picked up. He's been developing in Syracuse with the Syracuse Crunch, and he is playing unbelievably well with Tampa Bay. A Steve Yzerman product, and kind of like Yanni Gourde, I think he's a huge piece. They just signed him as well recently. They just signed him. So, Tampa Bay is looking pretty good. Killorn, as long as he can stay healthy, he had an awful, awful season last year. So if he can do any better than he did last year, it'll be a pretty happy season there in terms of Alex Killorn. Fourth line looks totally different here for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Danik Martel on the wing, along with the newly acquired Patrick Maroon and Cedric Paquette down the middle. Paquette's more of a grinder center. He pushes people around and causes chaos. Good pickup. This guy, he's going to help them out. And Patrick Maroon, is a great pickup there for Tampa. I think, that he could be a difference maker when you get into the playoffs. And maybe they don't get swept this year. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I wasn't going to mention again. I'm sorry. All right, so taking a look at the back end for the Tampa Bay Lightning. So your first pair, you got Kevin Shattenkirk and Victor Hedman together. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some shifting there. Maybe Sergachev gets in there. But Shattenkirk, here we go again. Who's going to say it? The Ranger, the former Ranger, McDonough, Shattenkirk, Strawman. It's kind of crazy how many Tampa Bay guys came from the New York Rangers. But Victor Hedman and Shattenkirk, that's a great line. I think it'll work. A little bit concerned about the defensive side in terms of that line. Shattenkirk is a little bit slow. So if that's their stay-at-home guy with Hedman bringing up the puck and forcing pressure on the other team's forechecking, that could be a problem there for Tampa Bay. But maybe Shattenkirk's able to turn a new leaf here with Tampa. Ryan McDonough and Eric Chernak on the second pair. Like I said earlier, I like Eric Chernak. It might be difficult to get in that top four with some of those defensemen, but now that Braden Coburn is kind of going to slide into that third role, that third pair, it allows a guy like Chernak to come up in the lineup, and I think he could play really well with a guy like Ryan McDonough. McDonough's a great player, former captain of the Rangers. He's a good player, great leader, and he's locked up for some time. So as long as he can stay healthy, that top four is pretty dominant, to say the least, in terms of the rest of the NHL. Excuse me. And then the third pairing, you have Braden Coburn and Mikhail Sergachev. So Sergachev, he's in a contract year. He's going to be looking to put up some numbers. And there's going to be a fight there for that top four spot, whether it goes to Chernak, Sergachev, Shattenkirk. It's going to be a three-way run for two positions. So we'll see what happens. And Coburn, he's definitely not the player that he once was. He's still a pain in the neck to play against, though. And, I remember when the Islanders played him last year, I just remembered not liking him. He was just annoying and, a pest. And that's kind of what he can do to you. So he's a good player in that sense, and he's a good leader in the locker room. And then in terms of in between the pipes, you got Andrei Vasilevsky and Curtis McElhinney. So again, the Tampa Bay Lightning seem to somehow pick up whoever they want, whenever they want. Curtis McElhinney has been a good third goaltender, backup goaltender in the NHL. He's probably going to have to fight it out with Louis Domingue, for that backup spot. But I think it'll end up being McElhinney's to lose at this point. So Vasilevsky just got his contract extension. He's ready to go. He's just going to focus on hockey now. So, hopefully he has a good season. And he had a rough playoff. So he's going to look to prove that he can be not only a good playoff, not only a good goaltender during the regular season and winning the Vezina Trophy, but he can also perform in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below on the Tampa Bay Lightning. My prediction, the Tampa Bay Lightning make the playoffs. Ooh, I shocked everybody. No, but I have Tampa Bay, maybe not running away with that division. I think there's going to be some stiff competition with a team like Toronto. Even a team like Florida could come up. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But that division is definitely one of the tougher divisions in the league. And we'll have to wait and see what happens. So I have Tampa making the playoffs. I think they get over 100 points pretty much with ease. The top end of that division is very strong. But the weaker part of that division is it's pretty weak. Ottawa, how does Buffalo look? There are some teams there that are, mediocre at best. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. Thank you for watching this video. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe. Check out the rest of this playlist here as we finish up the Summer Report series. We're, going through alphabetically. We're up to T now. We got Toronto next. And then we start getting into the end with Vegas, Vancouver, Washington, Winnipeg. And we're all done. So make sure to check those out. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.